important. I tell you the truth. The poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. See, but Jesus isn't commenting on the amount of money that she put in. He isn't putting forward a lesson to say that we should all just empty our coin purses to the extreme. This widow is a model of giving precisely because what she offers to God is her entire life. She offers not just money, but she offers her entire livelihood. She offers her future to the God that she depends on to sustain her. Many of you know who Gail Van Oxlade is? Gail Van Oxlade, she is a current financial guru. She's Canadian. She has several television shows on TV all about debt management. Alicia and I, we saw her in Nanaimo, and she's brilliant, she's funny, she's quite smart. And she also has a blog where she posts articles and answers questions. A while ago, she had a blog about charitable giving, in which she stated that people who are in debt, so if you have credit card debt and all that kind of stuff, you should not give to charities. Why? Because essentially you can't afford to. See, I kind of think Jesus would disagree. I think Jesus would disagree because it makes the act of giving all about the amount that we put into the treasury. It makes it seem like the best acts of giving are givings at the level by which we actually don't feel it, where we feel that we can actually afford to give. And yet that type of financial giving can be devoid of all self-offering and all dependence. And it's that which is exactly what Jesus comments on when he says, watch out for the teachers of the law. Because they weren't investing themselves at all into their acts of service or into what they were doing. It was all about themselves. Watch out for religious acts which serve to further your perceptions of your own greatness. The rich people that Jesus saw could afford to give to the temple. What is more, they could give without a speck of faith or a speck of worship or dependence in their hearts. See, but the widow couldn't do that. The thought behind her offering was a complete and an utter dependence on God for her entire life. Jesus says that she offered all that she had to live on. She literally was trusting in God for her future, for her life. The others could afford to give. She couldn't afford not to. And the sound that echoed in God's ears as her 2 coins hit the bottom of that bucket was nothing short of a song of praise and adoration to the God who sustained her. So where does this reading leave us? I'm conscious of the fact that this reading is quite an interesting one, because on one hand, Jesus comments not on the amount that she gives, but on the motivation behind it, right? And that's what he's talking about. But that whole scenario is an act of giving. So how do we talk about that in the midst of thinking about the motivation behind our giving, but also talk about our acts of giving? I think this reading speaks to us in 2 different ways. Firstly, I think it has something profound to say about our building project. I actually do. One of the conversations that we've had around the corporation and the council and the building committee is, how do we recognize people's gifts? At what level do we recognize people's financial contributions that they're going to make towards this extension? Are they going to get a plaque? And at what level do we give them a plaque? Or do we name rooms? For example, could I at some point be actually standing in the Eric Christensen pulpit? I hope not. One of the things, at what level do we do that? Or do we do that? One of the things that we are sold on is the fact, and because I think, at least informed my understanding, is this story, is that all giving is equal, regardless of the amount. If little Madison Poyle wants to save her tooth money and give 75 cents to this building project, well, that means as much to those who give thousands. Because God blesses the intention behind the check, behind the offering, not just the amount of zeros that you put onto it. Because the thing is, this building, this extension that we're trying to do, it's not about money. And it's not about our financial picture. It's about offering ourselves to God and to his work. It's about placing our future in God's hands. It's about our desire to offer God our very existence and our very lives. I think this reading also has something to say to us individually. I think this reading should cause us to think about not how much we give, but how much we are offering ourselves to God in our giving. Because money can be a great indicator of those things, isn't it? It's a great indicator to show what's important. So maybe we need to think about that. Maybe we're called to reflect on the fact that it's the thought that counts more than the amount. Less is always more when the amount is less important than the motivation. So this reading, it doesn't mean that you need to up your givings. Nor does this reading mean that you need to reduce your givings. It's not what it's about. Maybe this reading means that you need to think about it. What Jesus points us to in this reading is that if we are failing to offer God ourselves, then any act of giving, whether our time, our talent, or our treasures, is essentially missing the point. The widow is held up as an example to follow precisely because she offered herself. And that's what we are called to do. And I pray that we continue to do that. Amen.